Hi there, I'm Heather with heatherlavonjensen.com, and I'm reading my book, When I Grew Up, I'm going to have so much amnesia. Chapter 13, Babysitting My Inner Child with the Help of a Stuffed Raccoon. Today, my inner child staged a rebellion. She refused to let me pick up my children's toys. No, 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 an inner voice kept screaming. The mess keeps me safe. What if he comes in and the floor is clean? He'll sneak up on me. He's coming. I hear him. Alligator hide cowboy boots tromped down the hall toward us. The trailer's cheap floorboards shook. Her shared hallucination brought a scream to my throat. I swallowed it down. Dad lives 3 states away, I reminded her. We're safe here. She ignored me, clapped her hands over her ears, and screamed louder. I admire the girl who used to be me for her courage and her strength, but I wish she had a volume knob. Her screaming was so steady and persistent that I called Clara for an emergency session. My inner child resisted every step of the way. I can't deal with this, I told Clara. I can't deal with her. I've explained until I'm exhausted, but she won't listen to me, and she won't believe the perpetrator is over 1,000 miles away. I can't talk to her. I see her in my mind's eye screaming with her hands over her ears. What would you do if she were your own child? Clara asked. If she were mine and she were outside my head rather than inside it, I'd probably rock her until she calmed down. Can't you visualize yourself rocking her? No, no, I can't. Right now, I can't visualize my way out of a paper bag, I said. Perhaps you could try reparenting her, Clara said. You could get a doll. Not at all. I hate dolls. I shuddered. I've always hated dolls. Okay, not at all. Do you like stuffed animals? Clara asked. I used to when I was little. Then choose a stuffed animal and name it after her and parent it. I don't know her name. It occurred to me I was being a difficult patient. I felt sympathy for Clara, but I couldn't adjust my attitude. Then make one up, she said calmly, not willing to let me off the hook. How do you parent a stuffed animal? Take care of the toy like you would a real baby, like the teenagers take care of their eggs in home ec. Then come back next week and tell me how it went. $6.88 later, I was the proud parent of a stuffed raccoon. I tried hard to treat it like a baby. I carried it everywhere I went. I sang to it, I talked to it, I rocked it to sleep, and I tucked it into bed in a basket. I was thankful I'd given up my laboratory job to be a writer and stay-home parent. The guys on night shift would never have let me live this down. I had trouble naming the raccoon because I didn't know what name my inner child would like, and she wasn't communicating. She was just screaming. Finally, I picked a name at random out of the baby book. My real children ran and fetched their stuffed toys so they could use the baby book to name their babies too. I felt like an idiot, but sometime during the impromptu tea party that followed, my inner kid quieted down. Maybe this idea wasn't crazy after all. The raccoon and I were inseparable for 5 days. I even took it grocery shopping and bundled it next to Jack in the double baby seat in the shopping cart. The inner child hadn't made a sound since the first day, but I believed she was listening. I decided to test my hypothesis and turned on the computer and offered to share the keyboard. Nothing happened, so I eventually started returning emails. Somewhere in the middle of an email, the inner kid began to rage and weep, and my left hand started stabbing at random keys like a monkey with seconds to translate Shakespeare. Is she too little to know how to read and write? I said out loud. The typing stopped, and as clearly as if a real little girl stood beside me, I heard, "Where am I? Where's my house? Where's my mommy? Why am I here?" I wasn't sure what to tell her. You grew up, you moved to this house, and now you're safe. Dad can't hurt you ever again. I felt rather than heard her next words. I grew up? He's not here? I saved me? Was it magic? Am I magic? Look, I told her, and walked to the mirror in the front room. We both looked, and I felt her reel in disbelief. I saw myself through her eyes. It was not flattering. I looked ancient and wrinkly and decrepit. I couldn't believe 30-year-old me looked so elderly to my child self. I grew up, she said again, quiet and confused. I did. I'm in a grown up. Who'll be my mommy now? I will be, I promised. I will. And as suddenly as she appeared in my mind's eye, she was gone. And I knew one thing for sure. Either I was sharing my body with someone else, or my therapist made a bad call, and I needed a rubber room of my own. I wondered what the differences were between multiple personality disorder and schizophrenia. It made sense to me now that doctors get those two conditions mixed up. During lunch, the inner child popped out again and asked for a bologna sandwich on white bread with mayonnaise on both sides. I gagged. I told her, "We do not have the stuff to make that sandwich. Wouldn't you like anything else?" She chose an apple with peanut butter on it. I bit into it with my upper lip curled. This didn't seem like real food to me. I was suspicious, but it tasted okay. I had to have a name for my inner child, so I called her Little Heather, and she was insulted. "I'm a big girl," she insisted. "I want my own name." "What name would you like?" I asked. She shared with me a memory of watching the sun filter through the pines and junipers in our backyard. "That's what I want for my name," she told me. Right, kid. The closest I could get to that was Sunlight in the Trees. She was happy with her new name, and she chattered that her favorite song was Sunshine on My Shoulder by John Denver. She planned to marry him when she grew up. He sounded so kind when he sang, and he loved playing outside as much as she did. I tried to suppress my next thought, but she heard it anyway. "He's dead?" she said, and burst into tears. I couldn't figure out how to comfort a child who shared my skull with me. I hugged myself. I hoped she could feel that. I promised to buy Denver's greatest hits CD. She stopped crying and hid herself away, and I was alone in my mind again. I bought the CD that afternoon, but as far as I could tell, I was the only one around to listen to it. And days later, as I walked through a hobby and craft store, I heard her quiet voice, wistful and sad, wishing for brushes and paints. I was surprised because I've never been able to draw or paint, and I never wanted to. But I had some extra money, so I played fairy godmother. I bought an assortment of paint and brushes and a small palette and some paper and took them home. Sunlight in the Trees came forward, and magic happened. My hands mixed paint colors, they selected brushes, they tested each one to see what kind of stroke it made. In minutes, my hands were painting. I've never been able to draw, and I'm right handed. This left-handed little girl inside me was incredible. In her painting, a little girl knelt in prayer by a couch in our childhood living room. Pouring out of her bedroom door was a fiend from a nightmare, complete with serpent's tongue and demon horns. I spotted the resemblance to my father as a young man. The thick black unibrow even called to mind his Harry Potter-style glasses. She painted quickly and economically, and within the hour she was finished. "It's called Monsters in the Dark," she said. When my husband returned from work, he paused near the entrance to the kitchen and looked around the room like someone playing a game of "What's wrong with this picture?" "There are orange flowers all over the refrigerator," he said. "And someone painted all the picture frames in the living room. And what in the world did you do to my computer?" "It wipes off," I told him. "You don't have to leave it that way." And Sunlight giggled. I was quartering and shredding cabbage for dinner when Sunlight came forward and begged to help. I don't enjoy cooking. It requires multitasking. I can't master it, and I hate that I never seem to get any better at it. I don't mind being bad at something if I can improve, but cooking seems just as difficult every time. Sunlight in the Trees, however, thought cooking looked like fun. I didn't see any harm in letting her try. She was excited to take over the chef's knife and began to hack into the cabbage with disturbing enthusiasm. "Okay, kiddo, let's not chop it up too small. We're using the Cuisinart, remember? Do you know how to use the Cuisinart?" She was sure she knew. She'd watched me. Watching someone work isn't the same as having done the work. Feeding things into the machine's maw takes practice. She shoved in a wad, neglected to place the plastic guard in the machine, and flicked the switch before I could intervene. Whoosh! Brassica shreds took flight. Green confetti tumbled over the countertop and littered the floor. My sweater, face, and hair dripped soggy emerald lint as if I'd been savaged by a St. Patrick's Day party. I started to laugh. And Sunlight in the trees, who'd been silent, perhaps worried about my reaction, started laughing too. My husband found me leaning on the filthy counter, holding my sides and howling. What is it, honey? What's so funny? Sunlight, the Cuisinart. It was. She tried to help. Look at the cabbage. Blah! My husband stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Heather, you got some splaining to do. Thanks for listening. Remember, if you want to read ahead, down below in the description is a coupon code for 50% off my ebook on the website, www.heatherlavonjensen.com. Bye, guys.